few years back, my first GF broke up with me and cheated on me. So I was down, and after a few months I tried dating apps. I am 27, and back then I was 20, so Tinder etc. was not that huge of a thing back then, and here in Europe. Well, I met someone after a few tries, and we dated and got together after a few dates. It all went really well in the beginning, because we spent time together, and we had spare time. Also, we both wanted the best for each other. After approximately 2 months, it all went downhill. Really fast. She wanted me to spend 8 days a week with her. She got jealous over all of my friends. For example, I met an old classmate after a few years, which is male. No offense here, I am a straight guy FYI. And she started writing and calling me like crazy, and I asked if anything happened. She said no, and then I was wondering if we can't speak later. Well, she had a fight with me over the pick the friend, and I took of our reunion, and having a nice day. She also got abusive and made fun of me and my hobbies. Once I was helping out in a small festivity in my town, and made good money for working 3 days straight. She called me every 5 minutes what I am doing, and when I come home. I then told her I am at work and I will turn off my phone now, because she is annoying as hell, and I am super busy. She insisted on coming to the place I worked with a friend of her. I said alright, but I don't have time to come out, just to say hi. She and her friends started drinking, and 2 random dudes tried to hit them up. She called me again billions of times. I was literally freaking out and telling her if she doesn't stop I let security take her away from here. After work I was going to her place and wanted to ask what this all was about and why she would drink with a stranger. And then she, her girlfriend, and the 2 strangers are coming, and the 2 dudes start shouting my name and all, and I was so pissed off I wanted to leave, and she started a fight that they didn't hit up on her. I was like, yeah, for sure, and if I would have done that, she would have let hell loose. She said it would be different if I do that. The best things are yet to come. She locked me up once in her room and flat. I was shouting for help and called my brother, and she threatened me. I was never get physical or anything, but I was needing help. And after that I broke up with her. I told her mother I can't bring up any more energy for this, and I wish the best for her. She understood me and was such a kind person. Well, and my then ex threatened me to kill herself. She wrote me everywhere possible and asked me to come back. I told her one final time I won't, and why, in a kind way. She wrote me she takes drugs because her friends tried to help her to overcome me. I was telling her that doesn't make things better, and that her friends are shitty if they support you like that. Now, here we go. Only a few weeks after that I was away with a group of friends eating and drinking in a pub. It was a super funny night, and then on my way home I was called by a stranger. I was picking it up and asked who was there, and the stranger started saying, "Oh hey," a wrong and shorter version of my name. "Can you remember me? We exchanged numbers when we were smoking at the club last time." I was thinking, okay, wrong number. "Hey there, wrong number. I hate that place and I don't smoke. Sorry, but good luck next time." I was getting off the train, and then I got another call by the same number. I was like, WTF. Picked it up and told him that he is definitely wrong, although he was drunk or something. He then told me, "Hey, I am a friend of your ex. She feels horrible and asked me to talk to you and to make you overthink to come back to her." I was so upset and pissed off. I shouted into the phone in the middle of the night, "Listen up, buddy. Nice try earlier, but I don't care who you are and if you buy her all the drugs. So don't fucking call me again." I was seeing people while I walked home in the distance in front of my gate. I was having a bad feeling and called my family to please pick me up at the stop. They did, and those guys got off really quick. I locked the gate and saw a plant and a note lying there on our ground. I got her that plant. The note said, F***KU and your stupid flower and your stupid fake presents you made. At this point I said it is enough. Stalking is absolutely not funny. I called the number back, and then I freaked out really bad. "Listen up, mate. If I ever see you again close to my house, I call the cops. I have evidence of her threatening me online, and with phone calls etc., and also evidence you bothered me multiple times. And the note in the plant. Not so smart. I will tell this all to the police. I hope you regret it all now." After that I haven't heard anything of her. But once I was working in a restaurant at the bar, and she and her friends came there to eat. It was weird, but she told the guys I was her weird ex, and they started bothering me, and I had to get the whole group to get thrown out, and they are not allowed there anymore. I was part of a group with the woman and several other people. I won't name what we did, but let's just say it was in the space of performing comedy. I didn't know her or several of the other people ahead of time, but as I got to know her, she turned out to be really funny and excellent performer at what we did. She was a real pro. I personally am drawn to competence and talent, so we started hanging out. This was right around the time between Christmas and New Year's, and we would plan some events for the whole group, knowing that we were the only 2 members in town, so it wasn't so obvious to either of us or anybody else what was happening. We went to a movie totally platonically. We went to a nice Asian fusion restaurant platonically, and I invited her over to my house to watch a movie platonically, but with the intention of checking things out. This was like 3 days before New Year's. I will say that things went well, and then it's the only time in my life I've actually done the cliched thing of going on a date, bringing that date home, and then having sex with that date. The afternoon of New Year's Eve, she texted me the innocent question, "What are you doing for New Year's?" Which I took as an essentially platonic question, just asking me what I'm doing. I had been invited weeks earlier to go to the New Year's Eve/housewarming party that my friend, female, was having at her new house. So I told her that's what my plans were. That became the first in a really long line of horrible text messages that realized I'd done the wrong thing with my penis, and I was being punished for it. Her position was that since she and I had had sex, my New Year's plans should be with her. Well, I was able to talk her off the ledge, but I didn't change my plans, and she managed to get herself disinvited before I was going to invite her to the same event. But I don't negotiate with terrorists, yada yada, so I didn't invite her. Things calmed down after that, after she realized I wasn't cheating on her, even though we were not in any kind of declared relationship. We were meeting at my house every week, and after we were done, everybody would take their stuff, put on their coats, and leave, and this one person would do all of that, walk out of the house, pretend to be leaving. Then when everybody was gone, she would come back inside, and we would do the funny bunny. That was pretty much our entire involvement. We didn't actually do anything socially together outside of my house, I think. Anyway, she was getting out of control, and I finally had to break it off with her, so I had a clear heart-to-heart compassionate conversation with her, and she seemed to understand, and then pretend like I didn't exist, and I mean like physically I didn't exist. She stopped speaking to me, she wouldn't even look at me at the times we had to have some interaction, and then, the texts. So, we're broken up. I'd elected to step away from the group that we were a part of, because I felt she was more important to the group than I was. So we really were not seeing each other at all anywhere, because I was also avoiding the community where we would perform. The texts she sent were vile. They were just horrible things about me that were not based on any specifics about me. Like, we didn't really spend that much time together, and really didn't know that much about each other, but she did that thing where she would just describe some other person she must have known, and then say I am built like that person. Every week or two I would get texts that she had figured it all out, and then roll off a conspiracy that most typically was about how I was cheating on her and with who and how I was doing it. I mean, I guess I was a little bit flattered that she thought I was just getting that much ass and have the luxury to make a girl like her just another piece of ass in my harem, despite my behaving in no way that would indicate I regarded her like that. She would make mistakes in logic so large that they were like a gotcha in a government hearing. Like, she accused me of dating her only to make a prior girl I had dated jealous. Even though that other girl broke it off with me, and was also completely unaware of the relationship I had going on because girl I was really seeing and I were actively keeping it a secret from everybody but ourselves. I continued to get texts for months, and I would respond to them, always trying to make things better, or explain something so she didn't feel so hurt, things like that. This Buddhist guy I was talking to in a little bar and explained the situation to, because I was being bombarded by texts as we were sitting there, pointed out to me that on some level I actually liked it, and I know he was right. I have enough training in related areas to know what he means. Basically, I was getting something out of it, or seeking to get something out of it, which was to first off be important to someone, secondly to try and preserve my good guy image, so that nobody ever in the world says something bad about me face with rolling eyes, and helps me keep my attention off of my own sense of loss and bereavement, not just about this relationship, but about all the relationships. As kindly and compassionately as I tried to treat her, I just knew I was not cut out to be one of those people that's abused by their partner verbally and or emotionally, and I wasn't really interested in that, so the Buddhist's advice was to simply stop responding to the texts. He rightly pointed out that I was just giving her what she wanted, so why should she stop? In this case, he was right. From that moment forward, I didn't respond to another text from her, and she stopped texting me about 3 days later or so. Her texts didn't change character at the end. She didn't acknowledge that I wasn't responding to her, and didn't seem to change tactics in response to this fact, but they just stopped. I never got another text from her ever. She's actually a really nice person, and very funny and talented, but also somewhat troubled by stuff from her past, to a slightly larger degree than most of us. So I do wish her well, and I've never wished her ill. It was absolutely my most mature handling of a breakup in my life, but also the worst breakup I had. You can learn a lot about someone by what they keep in their drawers. Not the kitchen kind, not the office kind, the bedside kind. That's where people keep the stuff that doesn't always come up in conversation. The things they don't put on display, but still keep close. And sometimes those drawers say more than the person ever will. That's how I learned Nico wasn't who I thought he was. Or maybe he was, and just didn't want me to see it yet. I met Nico on Tinder in early February. It was one of those rare weeks where San Diego decided it wanted to pretend to be gloomy for a change. Cloud cover, wind, the kind of weather people here act surprised by even though it happens every year. His photos stood out, black and white portraits, mostly. One of him sitting in front of a mirror, camera in hand. Another of him leaning against a brick wall, almost smirking. His bio read, "Photographer. Quiet until I'm not. Let's skip small talk." I liked that. We matched the same day. He messaged first. "Nico, you look like someone who doesn't waste time." He was right. We met for coffee the next afternoon, and it turned into dinner. He had this calm, steady way of talking, like every word had already been thought through. No filler, no nervous laughter, just direct eye contact and questions that landed a little deeper than expected. What do you like that you're embarrassed to admit? Do you ever pretend to be someone else just to see if people notice? I didn't know if he was flirting or analyzing me. Maybe both. By the end of the night, I wanted to see him again. We went out 2 more times that week. Drinks, then a walk by the harbor. Then a late dinner where we shared a dessert, and he brushed a crumb off my lip like he'd been waiting for an excuse to touch me. Things progressed naturally. You know that moment when you're kissing someone, and everything else just fades out? That's where we were. On his couch, the windows open, the city breathing outside. He pulled me into his lap. I laughed against his neck. He kissed behind my ear and asked, "Want to move this to the bedroom?" I said yes. His room was minimal but curated. A few framed photos, a dark blanket folded perfectly at the edge of the bed. The only splash of color came from the red candle flickering on his nightstand. We were caught in that phase between laughter and heat, when everything is still light but the air is shifting. We kissed. He touched the back of my neck. I could feel the tension building, the kind that makes you forget where you are for a second. Then I reached for the drawer. I wasn't snooping. I just asked if he had protection. He nodded toward the nightstand. I opened it without thinking, and there it was. On top, a black box of condoms. Underneath that, a leather collar, a leash, and a red silicone ball gag. I froze, hands in the drawer, heart suddenly louder than it had been a second ago. I didn't say anything right away, just stared at the items. They weren't hidden. They weren't even buried. Just there, like they'd been waiting. I turned to him slowly, still holding the drawer open. He was sitting on the edge of the bed now, watching me. Calm. His shirt was half undone, his expression unreadable. I held up the collar, unsure if I was asking a question or just showing him the proof. He looked at me and said evenly, "That's not mine." Now there's a specific kind of silence that happens after someone says something like that. It's not the same as awkward silence. It's heavier, slower, like the air itself is trying to figure out what to do. I blinked. "You keep stuff that isn't yours in your nightstand." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood up, gently took the collar from my hand, placed it back in the drawer, and closed it. Then he said, "Let's not do this tonight." It wasn't defensive. It wasn't panicked. It was calm. Too calm. I left a few minutes later. No yelling. No confrontation. Just a quiet goodbye, and the feeling that I'd stepped into something I didn't understand. He didn't text that night, or the next day. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was leftover from an ex. Maybe he was into things he hadn't told me about yet. Maybe it was a conversation he didn't want to have without trust. But the way he said it, "That's not mine," just kept echoing. Because it didn't sound like denial. It sounded like a statement, a boundary, a warning. 4 days later, he texted, "Nico, sorry if I made things weird. You didn't do anything wrong." I didn't know how to respond. I typed and retyped a few replies. Eventually I settled on, "Me, do you want to talk about it?" No answer. But he sent a photo. One of his black and white portraits. A woman sitting on the floor, knees drawn to her chest, back to the camera. Around her neck, barely visible in the shadows, was a collar. The same one. I stared at it for a long time. Then I put my phone down and didn't reply. A week passed. I didn't hear from him again. I'd mostly moved on. I told myself it was just a weird moment. That maybe he was into something I wasn't. That it didn't mean anything. Then I walked into a small gallery in North Park one afternoon. Just killing time before meeting a friend for tacos. I didn't even know Nico's work was being shown there. But there it was. A whole wall of his photos. And in the center, framed, lit, unmistakable, was the same woman from the picture he'd sent me. Only this time, her face was visible. And she looked like me. Not exactly, but close enough to make my chest tighten. Same hair. Same posture. Same curve in the jaw. The title card read, Subject Unknown, 2021. I left without finishing the exhibit. The next morning, I found something on my doorstep. A plain envelope. No name. Inside, a photo. Of me. In Nico's apartment. Standing beside his bed. Drawer open. Holding the collar. The photo was taken from behind. From the hallway. I don't know who took it. I don't know if the woman in the portrait was real, or if she was just another part of his collection. I don't know what Nico really wanted that night, or what would have happened if I hadn't opened the drawer. But I haven't been on Tinder since. And I don't open drawers in other people's homes anymore. I've always hated family dinners. So when I matched with Rachel on Tinder and she invited me out for something chill and low-key, I expected tacos, maybe drinks. A patio somewhere in South Austin. Something casual. What I didn't expect was a table for 9, and her entire family waiting for me. On the first date, Rachel had this disarming smile in her photos. The kind that makes you stop scrolling. Something about her eyes, sharp but kind. Her profile said, Dog mom, teacher, likes early morning walks and people who aren't afraid of weird questions. She messaged me first. Rachel, are you emotionally available or just bored? I laughed out loud and wrote back. Me, both. But I'm working on it. We hit it off fast. She told me she taught 6th grade science and had a corgi named Pluto. We joked about bad dates, shared Spotify playlists, and swapped ghost stories after she found out I used to live in a supposedly haunted apartment near the UT campus. By the end of the week, she asked if I was free Sunday night. I know this really good family-run Italian place, she said. It's quiet, intimate. That sounded perfect. I didn't realize she meant family-run in the most literal sense. The restaurant was in East Austin. I showed up 15 minutes early because I'm that guy, nervous, punctual, always wondering if I've overdressed. I texted her. Me, I'm here. Want me to grab a table? No answer. A minute later, I saw her waving from inside. I walked in and froze. She wasn't alone. There were 8 other people at the table. An older woman and man, probably her parents. 2 younger women who looked like sisters. A tall guy with a jawline you could slice bread on. And a couple of kids, maybe 10 or 11, playing with the sugar packets. Rachel stood up, all smiles. Evan, you made it. She kissed my cheek and gestured to the table like this was completely normal. Everyone, this is Evan. Evan, this is well, everyone. I laughed nervously. Did I miss a birthday or? Nope. Just dinner, she said. We do this every Sunday. It's kind of a tradition. I looked at the table again. There was already a chair for me. A menu. A glass of water. A place set. Like they'd been expecting me. I sat down slowly. The introductions were a blur. Her dad leaned in first. So, what are your intentions with our Rachel? I laughed again, thinking it was a joke. He didn't smile. Just kidding, he finally said, but the pause had been too long. Too serious. Her mom jumped in. Asked what I did for work. Whether I liked kids. If I was religious. If I planned on staying in Austin long term. I hadn't even ordered food yet. Rachel just sat there, sipping wine like this was completely normal. I tried to pull her aside when the waiter came to take orders. Hey, I thought this was just us. She smiled. Yeah, I probably should have mentioned. My family's really important to me. I figured, why wait? Wait for what? For you to meet them, she said, like it was obvious. Dating is about integration. Seeing how you fit. On the first date? She shrugged. It saves time. I spent the next hour being grilled like a steak. Her uncle, I hadn't even caught his name, asked if I had any medical conditions he should know about, in case there are genetic concerns down the road. Her cousin asked how much I made per year. Her younger sister wanted to know if I'd ever cheated. One of the kids asked if I was going to be their new uncle. Rachel just kept sipping wine and smiling. When dessert came, her dad raised a toast. To new beginnings, he said, and to good men who know when they've found something special. Everyone clinked glasses. I didn't move. After dessert, I stood up to use the restroom. Rachel followed me. She caught me by the hallway and whispered, "You okay?" I tried to keep my voice light. "That was a lot." She tilted her head. "You didn't like it?" "I mean, they're nice, but I thought this was going to be you and me." "It is," she said. "This is me. My family's part of that. If you're dating me, you're dating them too." I stared at her. She wasn't joking, and she wasn't backing down. I nodded slowly. "Okay, I think I'm gonna head out." Her smile faded. "Seriously?" "Yeah." She looked hurt. Not angry, just disappointed. "I thought you were different," she said. I didn't answer. I just walked out. I thought that was it. Weird date. Red flag. Lesson learned. But 3 days later, I got a Facebook friend request from her mom. Then an Instagram follow from her sister. Then a group text from a number I didn't recognize. Family Sunday chat. "We missed you this week, Evan. Hope everything's okay." I left the chat. Blocked the number. Blocked Rachel. That Saturday, someone rang my doorbell. I live in a duplex. No gate. No security camera. I opened the door. There was a gift basket on my porch. Wine, pasta, a jar of sauce, and a note. "Since you didn't get to take any leftovers. No hard feelings. R." I didn't text her. Didn't say thank you. I threw the basket away. The next morning, I found a photo slipped under my door. It was me, sitting at the dinner table, looking off to the side mid-chew while Rachel's dad stared at me. No caption. No message. Just the photo. I moved apartments 2 months later. New neighborhood. New number. No more Sunday dinners. No more family traditions. No more Rachel. Ghosting is supposed to be the end of things. You block a number, delete a contact, maybe feel a little guilty, but it's over. The other person fades. You move on. That's how it works. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. But Matthew didn't fade. He followed. Not in the obvious sense. Not with footsteps or knock-knock stalking. He was quieter than that. Smarter. More patient. And it all started with a note under my windshield wiper. We matched in early May, right after the first real stretch of sun broke through the gray Seattle spring. I was in that restless, I should get out there again headspace. Swiping half-heartedly. Not expecting much. Matthew's profile was simple and clean. 3 photos. One with a dog, golden retriever, bonus points. One at a mountaintop, and one black and white shot of him sitting in a coffee shop, staring out the window. His bio read, "Looking for quiet moments and loud laughter. I make a mean French press." It wasn't flashy, but it felt grounded. We matched on a Tuesday. He messaged first. "Matthew, I'll make you coffee if you promise not to ghost after 1 cup." I smiled. "Me? Only if it's strong." "Matthew, it's stronger than my last relationship." We met 4 days later. Saturday afternoon. Pike Place. He wore a soft gray hoodie, dark jeans, and that kind of easy confidence you can't fake. Not overly charming. Just calm. Present. He smelled like cedar and something faintly herbal, like tea or cologne made for introverts. We walked through the market, got coffee from a little place tucked into an alley, and sat on a bench overlooking the water. He asked about my job, I work in UX design, my favorite soundtrack, Interstellar, and whether I believe in fate. "Not really," I said. He smiled. "That's okay. I believe in it enough for both of us." We kissed before I got into my car. It was soft, warm, promising. We saw each other 3 more times over the next 2 weeks. Dinner. A museum exhibit. A slow walk around Green Lake, where he reached for my hand without asking. He was sweet, thoughtful, a little intense, but in a way that felt flattering at first. He remembered everything I said, quoted it back later, like proof he was paying attention. "You said you hate olives, right? You mentioned your brother lives in Portland. Do you miss him? You once said you feel most alone in elevators." I've been thinking about that. It should have felt romantic. Instead, it started to feel like surveillance. But I ignored that feeling. Because he hadn't done anything wrong. Not yet. Things shifted the night I stayed over at his place. It wasn't planned. We'd had dinner, watched a movie on his couch, and ended up wrapped around each other under a blanket. His apartment was too clean. Not in a neat freak kind of way, more like it hadn't been lived in. No clutter. No laundry. No dishes in the sink. The only personal touches were framed photos on the wall. At first, I didn't notice. But when I walked past them to the bathroom, I paused. They weren't of friends, or nature, or travel. They were of women. All black and white. All candid. Or at least made to look that way. All alone. One brushing her hair. Another reading. One asleep. In different apartments. Different rooms. I asked him about them when I came back. He said he was capturing intimacy. It's part of a project, he said. Documenting people in their most unguarded moments. Did they know? I asked. He smiled. Of course. Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. I left early the next morning. I didn't text him for a few days. He texted twice. Matthew, did I do something wrong? Matthew. I liked where this was going. I didn't reply. Then he DM'd me on Instagram. Commented on an old post of mine. I blocked him. That should have been it. But it wasn't. 3 days later, I found the note. Folded. Tucked under my windshield wiper. No envelope. Just one sentence. I'm still thinking about that joke you made about elevators. I froze in the parking lot. My car was parked outside my apartment, in a gated lot. I looked around. No one nearby. I crumpled the note, tossed it, and told myself it was a one-off. That maybe he got drunk. That he'd move on. He didn't. The next morning, there was another note. Same paper. Folded the same way. You look tired today. I hope you're sleeping. I called the police. They said they couldn't do much. He hasn't threatened you, the officer said. Technically, this isn't harassment unless he repeats the behavior. He already has, I said. They took a report. Promised to make a note of it. I didn't feel any safer. I installed a camera by my front door. Left the porch light on all night. Started parking 3 blocks away and walking home just to feel like I had control over who saw me. But it didn't matter. The notes kept coming. Always handwritten. Always short. Always unnervingly specific. You wore red today. I like that color on you. You smiled at the barista. He didn't deserve it. I know you're trying to forget me. I'm patient. I never saw him. Never heard footsteps. Never caught a glimpse. Just the notes. Then he escalated. One night, I came home to find one of my Polaroids pinned to my front door. It was from years ago, me and my dog, sitting on my old balcony. I didn't remember posting it anywhere, but I did remember the shirt I was wearing in it, because it had a bleach stain on the sleeve, and I'd thrown it out 2 years ago. I packed a bag and stayed with a friend across town. Told work I needed a few days remote. Filed for a restraining order. The process was slow. Too slow. I changed my number. Deleted all my social media. Got a new lock. Still, I didn't sleep. The final note came a week later. It was waiting on my friend's doorstep. No one knew I was staying there. No one but Matthew. The note read, "You can run, but I don't need to follow. I'm already where you sleep." I moved again. Out of state. New apartment. "Oh God," I screamed while gripping the edges of the leather couch. "Oh God." That's when it happened. A chime echoed through the room, followed by a cool, robotic voice. "Would you like to order a spiritual guide?" We both froze. Everything stopped, breath, rhythm, the world itself. For a moment, even the air in my Washington, D.C. apartment seemed to hesitate. It was Alexa. She'd been listening. And that was just the beginning. I matched with George on a rainy Thursday. I remember because I was curled up on the couch in my favorite oversized hoodie, watching reruns of Fringe and swiping through Tinder more out of boredom than hope. His profile was clean. Just 3 photos. One of him at a food truck festival, another hiking in Shenandoah, and the last one, my favorite, just him smiling casually, holding a paperback copy of Slaughterhouse-5. No filters, no gym selfies, no obnoxious bios. His opening message was simple. "Are you real? Because I've been caught in catfish territory one too many times." I laughed. We started talking. And the messages didn't stop for days. George was different. Not just in the he listens kind of way, but in the way he spoke. He was thoughtful, curious, and a little bit sarcastic in the best way. We talked about everything, books, art, the weirdest things we'd ever ordered on Amazon. He made me laugh so much I found myself checking my phone every 10 minutes just to see if he'd replied. We met a week later for coffee in Georgetown. It was 5:30 p.m., and the sky was turning that perfect kind of orange that makes the city glow. I spotted him leaning against a lamppost, wearing a gray sweater and dark jeans. He looked nervous in person, but his smile was the same. And holy hell, was he taller than I expected. Our first date lasted 4 hours. We talked until the cafe closed, then walked along the waterfront. He kissed me under a string of fairy lights outside a bar that was closing down for the night. It was cinematic. It felt like something out of a movie. By the third date, I was hooked. And by the fourth, we were tangled in my sheets, laughing, kissing, and pausing long enough to remember how much we liked each other outside of the physical stuff. Then came the night Alexa joined in. It was a Saturday night, and we were 3 glasses of wine deep. We'd cooked together, some lazy version of pasta with way too much garlic, and ended up on the couch, tangled in each other, half watching a documentary about cults, which is exactly the kind of thing I watch when I'm trying to feel better about my own life choices. One thing led to another, and, well, we forgot about the spaghetti. Things got intense. George was more vocal than usual, and I wasn't exactly silent either. We weren't loud enough to wake the neighbors, but definitely not whispering sweet nothings either. And then in the middle of it, right at the peak, he shouted, "Oh God!" I echoed it, loudly, repeatedly, and that's when Alexa chimed in. "Would you like to order a spiritual guide?" We both stopped mid-motion. George stared at me. I stared at him. Then we both turned toward the bookshelf, where the small black cylinder with the glowing blue ring sat quietly, like it hadn't just shattered the mood with its unsettling suggestion. George blinked. Did she just offer us a priest? I burst out laughing. I couldn't help it. The absurdity was too much. But then, I realized something. The device had responded to us, which meant it had been triggered by something we said, or by how we said it. And that was when it got weird. I stood up, grabbing the remote to kill the background music. Okay, that's creepy, right? George still looked amused. Maybe she just thought we were having a spiritual crisis. I shook my head. No, George. You have to say Alexa to trigger her. We didn't say her name. He froze too. Neither of us had said Alexa. Not once. I walked over to the device and asked, "Alexa, did you hear that last conversation?" Her light flickered. Then, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that." Liar. I unplugged it. George tried to laugh it off. It's probably just a glitch. They happen all the time. Yeah, I said, but my voice didn't sound convinced. Glitches don't recommend spiritual guides mid-foreplay. We joked about it for the rest of the night. But when George went home the next morning, I started thinking more seriously. What else had Alexa heard? I went onto my Amazon app and checked the voice history log. You can request your device's recordings. Most people don't even know that. I'd only done it once months ago, when I thought she misheard me asking for the weather and played a Nickelback song instead. I downloaded the log. There were dozens of entries. Most of them were normal stuff. Me asking about the weather, setting timers, playing music. But then I saw one labeled, Audio Recording, March 18th, 11:46 p.m. That was the night George and I were together. The time matched exactly. I pressed play. The recording started with a laugh, my laugh. Then George's voice, clear as day. "You feel like a sin I don't want to confess." My breath caught in my throat. More audio followed. Groaning. Moaning. Words I don't even remember saying. It wasn't just snippets. It was multiple minutes of audio. I slammed the laptop shut. My hands were shaking. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a joke. Alexa had been recording us. Not just listening for her wake word, but actually keeping recordings. I deleted them all. Then I unplugged the device, took it to the sink, and held it under running water until the blue light died. I didn't tell George at first. I didn't want to freak him out. But a few days later, he texted me something that made my blood run cold. "George, hey, weird question. Did you say something about a spiritual guide the other night? Or was that not you?" I stared at the message. He hadn't been joking. He'd heard it too. It hadn't been just a glitch or a weird wine-fueled hallucination. I called him immediately. Told him everything. The recordings. The logs. The playback. The audio files with our names attached. George was silent for a long time. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You think someone else heard it?" I hadn't even considered that. But now I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if someone at Amazon was listening? What if the recordings were being stored somewhere, accessible to contractors or developers? There had been stories, whistleblowers, articles, but I'd never paid attention. Now I couldn't look away. That night, I went through every smart device in my apartment. My smart TV. The light bulbs. Even the thermostat. If it had a mic, I either unplugged it or smashed it. I don't care if that makes me sound paranoid. Wouldn't you be? Weeks passed. George and I kept seeing each other, but something had shifted. We both felt it. That moment, when a machine interrupted something so private, had left a mark. We joked about it sometimes, but underneath the laughter was discomfort, a shared unease. One night, George came over with a gift. He handed me a small box and said, "For your peace of mind." Inside was a tiny white noise generator. No Bluetooth. No mic. Just static. "Let's make our own soundtrack," he said. I kissed him for that. It started one humid Tuesday evening in Savannah, Georgia. I'd been on Tinder for maybe a few months, nothing serious, just seeing who was out there. I wasn't really looking for anything too intense, just someone to talk to, grab a drink with, maybe see where things went. I matched with this guy named Tenzin. The name caught my eye first. It was different, not someone I'd heard of before. His profile was simple. A few photos, one of him at a beach, another on a hiking trail, and a third holding a rescue dog. His bio said something like, "Just a good guy trying to live a good life. Ask me about my favorite books." It was refreshing. Tenzin messaged me first. He said something charming but not cheesy, something like, "You look like you read poetry and make fun of people who vape." I laughed. I don't even remember what I responded with, but it kicked off a conversation that lasted for hours. He was funny, thoughtful, and witty. He asked questions, not in a creepy, prying way, but in a way that made me feel like he genuinely wanted to understand who I was. We talked about movies from our childhood, weird food combos we secretly liked, and even our worst date stories. I felt this weird, instant connection that I hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't pushy. He didn't ask for more pictures or make weird comments. We kept texting for a few days. He'd check in every morning with something like, "Hope your coffee's strong and your coworkers are bearable." It was silly, but it made me smile. After 4 days of nonstop texting, he asked if I wanted to meet up for coffee at this little cafe near Forsyth Park. I said yes. The day of the date, I was nervous but excited. I remember standing in front of my closet for way too long, trying to pick something that said, "I'm chill, but also I tried." I finally settled on a simple dress and low-top sneakers. When I got there, he was already waiting outside, wearing a navy button-down and jeans. He looked just like his pictures, maybe even better. He smiled when he saw me, this warm, easy smile that immediately put me at ease. We had coffee and talked for almost 2 hours. The conversation didn't stall once. He told me about growing up in Boulder, Colorado, and how he ended up in Savannah for work. He said he worked in nonprofit management, something to do with youth outreach programs. I told him about my job in graphic design and how I was trying to get more freelance clients. He listened, really listened, and even remembered little details I'd mentioned earlier. After that, we started seeing each other regularly. He'd planned simple but thoughtful dates, a walk along the riverfront, a picnic at Bonaventure Cemetery, dinner at a Thai place I'd never tried. Everything felt easy with him. Comfortable. Safe. That's probably what made the fall so hard. It started with little things. He'd mention his ex, Nalia, more than I thought was necessary. At first, it was in passing. "Nalia used to love this song," or "We came to this place once." It didn't bother me too much. We all have pasts, right? But slowly, the tone of how he talked about her began to shift. He'd joke that she was obsessed with him, that she wouldn't leave him alone. "She still messages me, can you believe that?" he'd say with a chuckle. "Some people just can't let go." I remember laughing nervously the first time he said that, not knowing what to say. I asked him once, "Are you sure she's not going through something difficult? Maybe she just needs closure." He waved it off. "She's unstable," he said. "It's not my job to fix her." That should have been the first red flag. But I didn't want to be the suspicious girlfriend. We weren't even exclusive yet. I told myself he was just being honest, maybe even venting. I didn't want to seem jealous or controlling. So I let it go. But the mentions of Nalia didn't stop. In fact, they increased. He'd tell me she was still calling, still texting, still trying to see him. "She just won't take a hint," he'd say. "I haven't responded in months." He said it so casually, like it was an annoying fly buzzing around that he couldn't get rid of. I started to feel uneasy. I didn't know why exactly. It wasn't just the way he talked about her. It was the way he laughed when he did. It felt off. Too rehearsed. Too dismissive. I wanted to believe him, so I did. But something in my gut told me not to. The real turning point came one night when we were watching a movie at his place. He got up to go to the bathroom and left his phone on the coffee table. I wasn't trying to snoop, but when it buzzed, The preview showed a name I recognized. Nalia. My stomach flipped. The message was short. I don't understand you. I stared at it, my fingers twitching. I knew I shouldn't, but I picked up the phone. It wasn't locked. My heart was hammering in my chest as I opened the thread. I expected desperate messages from her. Pleading. Apologies. Maybe even angry rants. What I found was something else entirely. The messages weren't from her to him. They were from him to her. Dozens of them. He was the one texting her. Long, emotional messages saying how much he missed her. Telling her how he never wanted things to end the way they did. Saying he couldn't stop thinking about her, that he still loved her. I scrolled further. There were photos. Photos of him and me. Selfies we'd taken at Wormslow Historic Site, pictures from our dinner dates, even one of me laughing in his kitchen. He'd sent them to her, along with captions like, trying to move on. You wouldn't believe how happy I look. But it's just a mask. I felt like I was going to be sick. My hands were shaking. I put the phone down just in time before he came back from the bathroom. I tried to act normal, but I could barely focus on the movie. My mind was spinning. He had lied about everything. About being over her. About not responding to her messages. About who he really was. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to scream, to confront him right then and there. But another part of me was frozen. I couldn't believe any of this was real. How could someone so kind, so attentive, be so deceptive? Over the next few days, I kept my distance. I couldn't bring myself to answer his texts. I was trying to process it all, but the more I thought about it, the worse it got. He hadn't just lied, he'd manipulated me. Played both of us. He wanted her back, but used me as a way to provoke her. Or maybe he was just trying to convince himself he'd moved on. I'll never know. When I finally broke up with him, I didn't tell him what I found. I just said I needed space, that I didn't think we were a good match. He tried to talk me out of it, said he cared about me, that he was serious about us. But I knew better. I didn't give him a chance to explain. I deleted his number that night. Blocked him on everything. I erased his photos, our messages, even the playlist we'd made together. It felt like I was scrubbing him out of my life. It started with Tinder, well, of course. I was living in Portland, Oregon, working remotely as a UX designer for a tech company based out of Boston. I'd gotten used to the loneliness that comes teamed up with long hours and rainy afternoons. Swiping became more of a habit than a hope of mine. But then Jiro's profile stopped me in my tracks. He wasn't just attractive, he looked like someone who had stories to share, and I love stories. His photos were the perfect blend of rugged and thoughtful. Hiking, working out, long walks, rock climbing. I swiped right with no hesitation. His first message came through seconds later. Jiro, so what was your weirdest dream? You promised. I laughed out loud. It wasn't the usual hey or creepy compliment. It had personality. We started messaging, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. He was curious, smart, charming. He asked me about my job, my favorite local coffee shops, the last book I read. He even knew obscure Portland references, like the weird goat statue in Lentz Park and that one food cart that sells sushi burritos and never seems to be open. It felt real. After a few days, we moved to texting. I liked Jiro more than I expected. I found myself glancing at my phone during meetings, smiling when his name popped up. He made me feel heard, seen, like I mattered. After a week, he asked if I wanted to meet up. We agreed on a Thursday night. Low-key. Drinks at a bar in the Pearl District called the Velvet Antler. It was stylish but cozy, dim lighting, good cocktails, and tucked away enough to feel like a secret. He said he'd be wearing a navy peacoat and a brown beanie. I wore a green sweater dress and boots. I remember feeling nervous in a way I hadn't felt in years. Excited, yes, but something else too. That buzzing undercurrent of adrenaline you get when you're about to step into something you don't fully understand. When I arrived, he was already there, seated at a corner table, sipping an old-fashioned. And he looked just like his photos. Almost. That's the thing I can't explain. He was the guy in the pictures, absolutely, but there was something off. Like when you see a wax statue of a celebrity and it's perfect, but not quite alive. His eyes were a little too still. His smile didn't quite reach his face. But I ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking. We greeted each other with a hug. He smelled like cedar and spice. His voice matched his texts, low, smooth, a little playful. We ordered drinks and started talking about everything: music, travel, photography, the absurdity of dating apps. He told me he used to live in Tokyo before moving to Portland for work. Said he freelanced in digital photography and did event gigs. Mentioned a wedding he'd shot at a vineyard in Hood River. He even showed me a couple photos on his phone, moody, black and white portraits that looked like they belonged in a gallery. It was a good date, but there were cracks. Small ones. Whenever I asked about his job, he'd get vague. I'm between projects, he'd say. Or, the freelance hustle. When I asked which neighborhood he lived in, he said, sort of close to Alberta, but couldn't name a cross street. When I joked that he was like a Portland cryptid, he laughed and said, maybe I am. I brushed it off. Not everyone wants to share everything on a first date, right? Still, something didn't feel right. We said goodbye with a long hug and a kiss on the cheek. He texted me that night, Jiro, you're even better in real life. Let's do this again. I agreed. But that night, lying in bed, the unease gnawed at me. So I did something I don't usually do. I ran a reverse image search on his profile pictures. The results hit me like a punch to the chest. Every single one of Jiro's pictures belonged to someone else. They weren't stock photos, but they were stolen. One was from a Japanese travel blog. Another from a professional photographer's Instagram based in Seattle. The bookstore cafe shot. That was from a Reddit post 2 years ago, posted by a user named @Wanderlight. None of them were him. And suddenly everything clicked. The vague answers. The way he dodged specifics. The fact that he knew just enough about Portland to sound convincing, but not enough to feel authentic. I felt sick. I tried searching his number, nothing. No LinkedIn, no social media, no matches in the usual people search sites. It was like he didn't exist. Except he had shown up. I had seen him, talked to him, hugged him. So who was he? The next morning I texted him. Me, hey, weird question. Are those really your photos? He didn't reply for hours. When he finally did, it was short. Jiro, why? I told him the truth about the reverse image search, the links, the blog. I asked him who he really was. He left me on read. Never responded again. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Then I went back to Tinder, and his profile was gone. Just like that. Vanished. But it didn't end there. A couple days later, I got a message from a local Reddit user. I'd posted a vague warning in our /Portland about catfishing and people using stolen images. Someone replied with, I think I talked to the same guy. Looked like the photos, but something was off. He called himself Kenji. Same line about being a photographer. Another person chimed in. He told me he was a painter. Went by Tomo. Same photos. Another. He matched with my roommate last month as Riku. Same story. Same weird vibe. It wasn't just me. He'd done this to multiple women. Dozens, maybe more. Always the same photos. Always a different name. A ghost in the machine. I don't know what he wanted. He never asked for money. He didn't try to scam me. He didn't even push for anything physical. It was like he just wanted to be believed. To be loved, maybe. But the thing that haunts me isn't what he did. It's how easy it was for him to do it. How many details he got right. How convincing he was. How I sat across from a man who didn't exist and felt something real. I don't use Tinder anymore. And I haven't been back to the Velvet Antler. Every now and then I get a message from a friend saying, hey, doesn't this guy look familiar? And they'll send me a screenshot of a new profile, different name, same face. He's still out there. Still pretending. Still slipping into lives like a shadow. So if you ever match with someone who seems too polished, too mysterious, too good to be true, trust your gut. Because some people aren't looking for love. They're just looking for a place to hide. You ever meet someone who just gets you? Like right away. No awkward small talk. No wondering if they're into you. Just instant connection. Like Kismet. Like, where have you been all my life? That was Lauren. And for about 6 days, it was kind of perfect. Until it wasn't. Until it got dark. I've been on Tinder long enough to know how these things usually go. You match, you flirt, maybe you meet up. Half the time, there's no chemistry. The other half, it fizzles out before the second date. I wasn't looking for anything special. Then Lauren matched with me. Her profile didn't scream anything unusual. 3 photos, all tasteful. One of her in a flowy sundress on a rooftop bar, another with her holding a glass of wine and smiling, and a third of her next to a golden retriever. Her bio was short. Lover of deep convos, espresso martinis, and bad decisions. Let's make one together. I messaged first. Me, define bad decision. Because I've made a few. Lauren, how tall are you? Now normally that would have been a red flag. I know how that sounds. but something in her tone felt playful. She wasn't one of those height checkers. Just direct. Me, 6 feet 1 inch. You. Lauren, 5 feet 8 inches. Emotionally 4 feet 11 inches. I laughed. We kept texting. Her vibe was electric. She replied fast, had great timing, and wasn't afraid to flirt hard. She told me she worked in marketing at a local agency downtown. Said she liked running, but only when she was angry. That her parents were divorced but civil. That her ex was a non-event. We met up 2 days later. Drinks at a bar on King Street. She wore a black halter top, red lipstick, and smelled like coconut and something sharp underneath, like peppercorn or burnt sugar. She walked in like she owned the place. I liked that. We ordered 2 espresso martinis and sat at a table in the back. Within 10 minutes, we were already joking like we'd known each other for years. No awkward silences. No checking phones. She touched my arm when she laughed. Bit her lip when I leaned closer. Told me I had that quiet, dangerous energy. We made out in the parking lot outside her building. She texted me before I even got home. Lauren, I'm not trying to freak you out, but I think I might already be obsessed with you. I smiled. It felt flattering. Intense, sure, but flattering. Me, I'll try not to disappoint. Lauren, good. I'd hate to have to kill you. She added a winky face after that. I laughed. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have. Day 2. She asked to see me again. That night. I said sure. We ordered Thai and watched the girl with the dragon tattoo on her couch. She curled up next to me like we'd done this 100 times. Halfway through, she turned and said deadpan, "If you ghost me, I will find you." I chuckled. That's fair. She didn't laugh. I stayed the night. We didn't sleep much. Day 3. She brought me coffee at work. Showed up. 8:52 a.m. Texted. Look out your window. There she was, standing on the sidewalk with 2 lattes and a muffin. Now, I hadn't told her where I worked. That tripped a wire in my brain. I came downstairs, smiling, pretending not to be weirded out. Me, how'd you find this place? Lauren, you mentioned your office was near the river. I reverse searched your LinkedIn. I paused. You're thorough. She leaned in. I like to know things. She kissed my cheek and walked off. Day 4. She texted me nonstop. Nonstop. No exaggeration, 62 texts over the course of my workday. If I didn't reply within 10 minutes, she'd double text. Lauren, are you mad? Lauren, I'm sorry if I said something weird. Lauren, I just feel really close to you, that's all. I told her I was slammed at work. She apologized. 2 hours later, she sent a photo of her in the bath with a caption. Wish you were here. That night, she asked if I wanted to meet her parents. I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Day 5. She showed up at my place. Uninvited. She'd never been there before. I never gave her my address. I came home from the gym and found her sitting on my stoop, holding a plastic container of lasagna. I made this for you, she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I asked how she found my place. She said she just followed the trail. I didn't press. We ate. It was good. We had sex. She cried after, said she didn't know why. I held her awkwardly until she fell asleep. I stayed awake. That's when I started to feel it. The shift. The thing that happens when someone crosses from intense to unsettling. Day 6. I told her we needed space. I was gentle. Said I liked her, but it was moving too fast. She didn't respond for 5 hours. Then she sent a string of messages. Lauren, I knew this would happen. Lauren, you're just like everyone else. Lauren, you said you liked me. Was that a lie? Lauren, I don't understand. Lauren, don't do this to me. Lauren, please. I didn't reply. She sent a voice memo. I didn't listen. Then she posted a photo on Instagram, black and white, her face half in shadow, mascara streaked. The caption. He said he was different. Day 7. I blocked her. Phone. Instagram. Tinder. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. Unknown. You think I can't find you? I blocked it. New number the next day. Unknown. You can't ghost a ghost. I reported it. Changed my number. Thought maybe I was safe. I wasn't. About a week later, a coworker said someone had called the office asking for me. Said she was my fiancée. Left a message. Tell Jay I forgive him. I hadn't told anyone at work about Lauren. No one even knew I was dating. That night, I checked the security camera outside my building. I don't usually, but something told me to look. There she was, 2:38 a.m., standing across the street. Just standing, not moving, staring at my window. She stood there for 47 minutes, then walked away. I started sleeping with the lights on. Started checking the back seat of my car before getting in. Started carrying a pocket knife. I'd never done that before. 2 days after that, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a photo strip. You know, the kind you take in a booth at the mall. Except I hadn't gone to any booth. The photos were of me. In my apartment. Sleeping. Different angles. Different nights. In one, my eyes were barely open like I'd stirred. She'd been inside. I called the police. They took a report. Told me there wasn't much they could do unless she made a direct threat or physically harmed me. I asked about restraining orders. They said I'd need her name, address, more evidence. I realized then, I didn't even know her last name. I moved. New apartment. New locks. Different part of town. No social media. No dating apps. No contact. For a while things were quiet. Then I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. There was only one sentence. I know you still think about me. I burned it. That was 8 months ago. I still don't use dating apps. I still double-check my locks every night. Sometimes when I'm driving, I see a woman with long hair and red lipstick in the rearview mirror and feel my chest tighten. My friends say I'm being paranoid. Maybe I am. A few years ago, I did something really stupid. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I made a choice that could have cost me my life. And even now, every time I think about it, I get that tight, horrible feeling in my chest. Like I can still feel the cold air on my skin, the rising bile of panic, the sound of tires crunching gravel where no other cars should be. I had arranged to meet a guy from Tinder. His name was Brendan. A pretty normal name for someone who, up until then, seemed like a pretty normal guy. We had been messaging back and forth for a few weeks. Nothing too intense, just casual, flirty conversation. He seemed kind enough. Polite. He didn't come on too strong, which I liked. I have anxiety around driving, especially in unfamiliar areas, so I made the naive decision to have him pick me up outside my place. Yes, that was the first mistake. A big one. I know that now. But I was in a vulnerable place. I was lonely, convinced that maybe this time would be different. That maybe I could just go on a nice date, have some sushi, and distract myself from the messiness of life. Brendan pulled up right on time in a silver hatchback. He waved, smiled, and I got in. He was clean-cut, smelled nice, and had that slightly awkward, fumbling charm that made him seem harmless. I exhaled, trying to relax. We made small talk as he typed the name of the sushi place into his GPS. It was a restaurant I'd heard good things about, nestled in the heart of a nearby town. As we set off, everything seemed fine at first. We chatted about music, movies, the usual first date fluff. But after maybe 20 minutes, I noticed the scenery changing. Subtly at first, fewer houses, fewer cars, more trees. Then it was obvious. We were in the woods, like proper backcountry dirt roads and thick trees pressing in on both sides. There was no cell signal, no landmarks, just winding roads and the sound of the car's engine cutting through otherwise oppressive silence. I tried to keep my voice light, though my stomach had dropped. Are we still heading to the sushi place? Brendan glanced at the GPS, then gave me a sheepish look. Yeah, I swear. This is just the fastest route. The GPS must have picked a shortcut. I nodded, but something in his tone didn't sit right. His voice was tight, defensive, like he was trying to convince himself, too. Can we just head back to the main road? I asked, trying to sound calm. This feels off. He chuckled nervously. I know, right? I was thinking the same thing. This is creepy. Don't worry, I'll get us back to civilization. But I didn't feel reassured. I glanced at his hands on the wheel. They were gripping it tightly, knuckles pale. There was sweat on his forehead, despite the chill from the car's AC. I must have looked pale myself because he kept glancing at me, then back at the road. I swear I'm not doing anything weird, he said suddenly, voice cracking just a little. I'm just following the GPS. That made it worse. Who says that unprompted? I pulled out my phone, instinctively wanting to check the map myself, but of course, no signal. None at all. Brendan noticed and said, too casually, yeah, there's no signal out here, love. It was that word, love, that made my blood run cold. It felt too familiar, too sudden, like he was trying to comfort me in a moment that didn't call for it. My fingers started to tingle, cold and clammy, while sweat beaded at the back of my neck. I tried to steady my breathing. I smiled weakly, tried to keep the panic from showing. I didn't want him to know I was afraid, even though I was absolutely terrified. I forced a laugh and said, "Well, I hope we don't end up in a horror movie." He laughed too, a short, clipped sound. "Yeah, that would suck." Eventually, mercifully, we pulled into a small parking lot next to the sushi place. It looked normal. Busy even. There were other people, lights, the clinking of dishes from inside. I had never been so relieved in my life. But I was also confused, because when I later took an Uber home from that exact same restaurant, the drive only took 15 minutes. Brendan had taken me on a nearly hour-long detour through the woods. I didn't say anything in the moment. I was too shaken. I was physically trembling, but I tried to hide it as we walked inside. My appetite was gone, but I forced myself to eat a few pieces of sashimi, nodding along to his small talk. And just when I thought the weirdest part of the night had passed, Brendan leaned in closer, his eyes scanning my face. "So," he said, "when do you think we'll be able to do it?" I blinked. "What? You know, how long until you'd sleep with me? A day? A week? A month?" I stared at him, stunned. He smiled, like he'd just asked a perfectly reasonable question. "I mean, I just don't want to waste time if it's going to take too long. I can't wait a whole month. I'm just telling you now." I didn't respond. Couldn't. My brain was still processing the fact that I'd just been dragged through the woods by a stranger who now seemed to think I was on some sort of sexual countdown timer. The rest of the date was excruciatingly awkward. I stayed polite. I smiled. I took an Uber home and made sure he didn't follow me. The moment my Uber pulled out of the restaurant parking lot, Brendan messaged me. "I don't think this is going to work. I need someone with a higher libido." I didn't argue. I just texted back, "Okay." But I couldn't stop thinking about the drive. Why had he taken me so far out of the way? Why the woods? Why did he seem nervous, sweaty, unsettled? Why did he comment on his GPS not working, and then follow it anyway? And why, when I tried to find the same route we'd taken that night, couldn't I replicate it? None of it made sense. I cannot drive because I have terrible peripheral vision, and sometimes it can make bad dates awkward, because I ask them to take me home. This one took the cake. I swear, all of this really happened. We were supposed to get dinner and a movie. He picked me up, seemed nervous, and wouldn't stop quickly talking when we were on the way. I just figured it was first date nerves. We went by the dinner place, about to get out of the car, when he says he actually thinks the movie is going to start before we finish dinner. They were a little busy, but I thought it was a little strange. We skipped dinner. We get to the movie theater, stood in line for him to get a ticket. I had already gotten mine online, so I didn't bring anything inside with me but my phone to show my QR scan. We get up to pay and he does the very obvious. "Oh, I forgot my wallet at home." I'm so embarrassed, except he says it in a manner that suggests he was waiting for me to offer to pay. I tell him I didn't bring my card inside. He apologizes to the teller and calls me his forgetful girlfriend. Super awkward. We leave the theater. He immediately suggests that instead of going back inside to pay, that we go by his place real quick to grab his wallet. Cool. First redemption. I agree with him. We have enough time to make it back for the film. 10 minutes pass, and we pull up to his place. He asks me if I want to come inside. I say sure. We get inside. I realize he still lives with his parents. We are both almost 30. He introduces me to them. Super awkward. He immediately suggests that, since we're having such a nice time, that we just stay there and watch a movie. At this point, I'm no longer interested in screaming inside. I text a friend about the possibility of getting picked up, actively awaiting a reply. His parents offer me spaghetti, awkward, and I politely decline, but he doesn't. Eager to get the fuck out of that kitchen, I follow him to his room where he is picking out a movie. I sit down on the couch in his room and incessantly check my phone for SOS replies. None yet. He gets sidetracked. I'm barely listening, and starts playing some of his original music that is literally just a pre-recorded instrumental of Fall Out Boy and P.E.T.D. Songs with his shitty alternate lyrics badly recorded over it. I'm so cringe. I almost feel bad for the guy until he apologizes for all the uppers he's on and how he's speeding and probably acting weird. I finally get a reply. 25 minutes, and I'm fucking out of there. I let him know I may have to leave soon, so he turns on YouTube and sits down next to me on the couch. He slowly creeps closer, puts his arm around my shoulder, and uses the back of his hand to brush against my side boob. I stand up. What are you doing? You said you might have to leave soon. I thought maybe we could fool around before I took you home. Sorry, but no. You're a nice guy and all, but I'm not interested. I'm waiting on a friend to come pick me up right now. I don't think we'll be going out again. He immediately becomes a blubbering mess and apologizes profusely, claims there must be something wrong with him. He's desperately lonely. It's been years. He doesn't know how to talk to people. He's gonna kill himself if he can't get attention. All of the horrible excuses you don't care to listen to. I don't even reply. I just gather my purse and make my way towards the door. You could have at least let me give you a ride home. It's not like I'm going to hurt you. Surprised face, nope. I'm out. I start leaving his house, say not shit to his parents as I leave the way I came, and wait by the driveway for my friend. I'm out there maybe 5 minutes before he comes outside crying, telling me I've embarrassed him and I should feel terrible for embarrassing his family, who made me a perfectly nice meal. I don't answer. He keeps yelling, eventually goes back inside. Another couple minutes pass. Comes back outside, apologizes profusely. I tell him to leave me alone. He asks, 4. Hey, good night kiss. I tell him to fuck off. My roommate/friend picks me up. We have a good laugh. We get a little closer from it. About 5 days pass. I think it's all over. I was wrong. For context, while I was talking to this person on Tinder before we met for a date, I talked a lot about food because I'm a professional chef. I mentioned once in a chat weeks ago that I needed to stop responding for the day because I have to go out to get groceries. That usually takes me a while because I go to 3 to 5 stores to get the best produce, prices, and specialty ingredients. I'm at home. It's summer. I'm dicking around on Reddit and listening to Taylor Swift. I hear the back door to the house open. I presume it's my roommate who went shopping a few hours ago. I hear the rustle of bags in my kitchen and someone putting away things in the pantry and the fridge. After about 10 minutes I go in to refill a beverage and see it's the same fucking guy from that terrible date. I hit the SOS alert button on my phone, which sends my location, a distress message, an image on both front and back cameras, and a 1-minute audio recording to a list of people I chose. I asked him what the fuck he was doing at my house, and why he thought he could just come in unannounced. You said you needed groceries. I thought it would be nice to bring you some. I invited a couple friends over. I thought we could have a double date and cook them a nice meal. Are you fucking kidding me? I see red. I start screaming and shoving him to get out of my house. At first he seems genuinely confused, then angry. I get him out of the house. Lock the doors. Call my roommate. He's sitting in his car in the driveway, punching himself in the face. I start yelling from the window that I've called the cops. I haven't, so that he'd leave. He does, after about 20 minutes. I installed cameras in my house. That guy ended up getting arrested a couple weeks later for assault, unsure if it was sexual or not. My roommate and I bonded through this experience, began dating about 6 months after that, and have been together 4 years now. I kept the groceries. Everyone feels lonely sometimes. For me, last night struck a little harder than usual. I'm not sure why it did, but it led to me downloading Tinder. When irrational thoughts get to you, you start to think of irrational solutions to your problem. I figured I would get on Tinder and swipe the night away, as it seemed like the easiest fix for my problem. I have always believed that dating apps aren't made to pair you with a potential lover, but rather to make you feel insecure, so you spend more time on the app. Because of this, I was surprised to find a girl called Jessica had liked me back within 10 minutes of me using the app. I felt like she was fake at first, but I'd rather find out than contemplate about the possibility, so I texted her. She responded within a few minutes, and we started talking. What felt like minutes of talking had turned into hours. When I looked at the time, I was surprised to see that it was 1 a.m., so I told her that I had to sleep because I had to wake up early for work in the morning, but that I'd love to text with her again. She replied, "Oh yeah, no problem. If you give me your phone number, we can get off this app," smiley face. Without hesitation, I gave her my phone number and went to sleep. I woke up and started the day as I usually do. I ate breakfast, took a shower, brushed my teeth, and got on my way to work. I have worked for a newspaper for over 5 years, where I get to write about all types of things. Today I had to write about a man who went missing not too far from where I live. He was 2 years younger than me and lived alone. It's been 2 weeks since his disappearance, and the local authorities decided to use the newspaper in hopes someone would have more information. As I was finishing up the story about the missing person, I got a text message from the girl. She asked me how work was, and if I had anything to do that evening. I caught myself smiling at the text message and ridiculed myself for already being head over heels for this girl, despite not having met her in person. I always tend to get attached to people too quickly, which is usually why my relationships don't go as I would like them to. Because of this, I cursed my mind for feeling this way. I waited a few minutes before answering her text, because I felt like it would make me seem more mysterious and busier than I actually am. I'm not sure why, but I figured it would be better than replying within 5 seconds. Yeah, I'm free. Getting off from work soon. What do you have in mind? I sent the message and went back to finish the news article. Once I had finished it, I sent it to my boss for confirmation and left work for the day. When I looked at my phone, she replied to my message. How about you come over to my place in an hour? We can chat and have some fun. Without hesitation, I quickly opened the chat and replied, completely disregarding my previous strategy. That sounds great. I'll be on my way soon. A few minutes after that, she sent me her address, which was not far from where I lived. It's about a 15-minute walk. As I made my way to her house, I was imagining all the possible situations that might occur, any conversations we might have, and what the best responses would be. I arrived at her house 10 minutes earlier than she said, but being early is usually considered a good thing. I knocked on the door of her house and waited for a little bit, but got no response. I grabbed my phone and told her I was at her house. While waiting for a response, I decided to look around the house to see if maybe I could see her through one of the windows. I made my way to the back of her house and quickly found myself standing in the garden. Standing in the garden, I immediately noticed something odd. It seemed like she had done some digging a few days ago. I figured she had tiles in her garden, which she decided to remove. Before I had the chance to think about it any longer, I heard her voice yell at me from a window above me. Oh hey, you're already here. Let me open the door. I waved at her awkwardly and was startled by her sudden appearance. I quickly regained my composure and made my way back to the front door, where I was met with her beautiful smile and a gesture for me to come in. You want something to drink? She asked. Some water would be great, thanks, I replied awkwardly. This fucking nightmare ended about 2 hours ago. TLDR, shrink your Tinder radius. Don't do drugs. Don't do drugs with people you don't know. Don't do LSD with hookups. Listen to your very sober friend and don't think with your dick. So 2 days ago, a friend of mine asks me for a ride to the gas station, says he has a question he wants to ask me in person. Okay, I'm curious. He says there's this girl he's been talking to and he wants to meet up, drop acid, hook up, but neither can drive, so he asks if I can drive to pick her up if he comps gas. Sure, okay, I'm not doing anything. He wants to go in the morning, okay. So it's 7:40 a.m. I've just picked him up. Stop at a gas station for some gas, snacks, cigarettes, and air. Gonna be great. Punch the details into GPS. It's a 40-minute drive. Okay, whatever. He's already tossed me some gas money. We drive down. It's a great drive. Sunny, breezy country highways. We lose reception about 10 minutes from her address. No huge deal. We've got playlists. Pick her up. She sits in the front while he's in the back behind me. Great drive back, windows down, cruise control, smoking cigarettes and bumping tunes. I got a few weird vibes from her, just spilling some heavy-ass TMI, but I'd already told him I thought it was a bad idea. I dropped them off at his place at approximately 9:20. Drive back to my place, sit in the car, my boyfriend's car, with permission, my car is too rickety. Smoke a cigarette or two, listen to some music, suddenly have to pee real bad. Run into our apartment, got a text from my friend that just reads, you, at 11:10 a.m. I'm not too worried, I'll respond in a few. The second I finish peeing, haven't even touched the TP, I get a call from him. He says, hey, there's some scrabbling, and she's on the phone crying, please come pick me up, I'm so scared, please hurry, I just want to go home, please don't hang up. I'm thinking, what the FUCK happened? Finish my bathroom stuff and drive over. She gets in the car sobbing, nose running, crying into her phone to someone else. I offer her some of my tea lemonade. She says it's really good. I stop at the gas station again, am handed gas money again, and get her own. It's in a clear bottle. She opens it, factory sealed, doesn't shake it first, takes a sip, says it tastes different. Sees the tea and pulp. Accuses me of trying to drug her for about 15 minutes straight, begging me to tell her what I put in the drink. I explained she just needs to shake it up. After a while she came down and asked to stop and get food. We stopped for burgers, fries, ice cream. She tells me what happened, She has severe PTSD, took a dab, and it intensified the paranoia and spooked her the fuck out. She was still high at this point, but out of her panic attack. We chatter, she's sweet but still spilling some ridiculously personal shit. Adds me on Facebook, I drive her the rest of the way back. We part ways and I call my friend to fill him in that it was a panic attack ex-dab. After I'm home for a bit I messaged to ask her how she's doing. She's appreciative I reached out and took care of her during the attack, apologizing profusely for everything. I put the phone down, take a nap with my boyfriend. Woke up, went to the bathroom, and he had texted me that she was in a better headspace and that they wanted to try again. I told him that I didn't want to drive there and back for more times in the same day. Could it wait until tomorrow? They agree. Then one of the two texts and asks me if I'd go down to pick her up if she stayed the night. I groan and moan but ultimately agree, making both of them agree that they'd lay low this time. So I pick him up, he literally lives 3 blocks away. Again and we set out again. It's approximately 7:15 p.m. this time. We bump my music, smoke cigs, talk and enjoy the company and sunsets. Pick her up, she's in a much better mood, head back. Drop them off and I head home. Get home about 9:30ish, give or take. I lay down on our ridiculously comfortable couch and pass out at about 11. It's 2:30 a.m. and I woke up, thanks Kat. Check my phone, text from her saying, "Help me, they're up to something, I'm freezing, I puked twice, help." And from him saying, "Please tell me you're awake." I respond once or twice, then he calls. I answer and he explains that they're trying to figure out what the fuck to do. She needs to be moved off the property, or he needs me to calm her down, or just give him some moral support, because she's having another panic attack, on acid this time. Fucking Christ, why does no one listen to me? I throw some clothes on and head over. I pull up and she walks up to me, chatting a mile a minute, tears and snot and puke all over. He's trying not to cry and clearly trying to kill the high. His buddy is wandering around so high he can't string more than 3 words together, and his buddy's mom is flitting around like a hummingbird trying to quietly get things back in order. My friend is living with the mom and dad. We corral her into the car, she's crying about how cold it is, and how she just wants to go home. I reiterate that I just woke up to friend, buddy, and buddy's mom, and am not sure that I'm safe to drive that distance at night while tired. We're discussing options standing outside of my boyfriend's car, while she moans into her arms. It's honestly mostly me, friend, and the mom talking since buddy was off on Mars. My personal vote is to get a cheap but safe hotel room in town for the night, and let her come down there, drive her back in the morning. Her vote is to go home. Buddy's is to call an Uber, which would have been $85. Friend gets cold, so he goes into the car. I ask Buddy to go get a water bottle for her, so she has something to drink. He complies, mom and I talk options. It's been about 20 minutes. The biggest thing is getting her somewhere else so the dad of the house doesn't wake up. He's anti-drug, would have called the police, and thrown friend's ass onto the curb while he was in lockup. Straight edge, works in prisons, the whole 9. I wish I was joking. So I decide that as long as I have a partner to talk to on the road, then I'll be fine to drive. I'm pretty damn awake at this point. Stop and get a 5-hour energy and we're off. Car ride is fucking silent the whole way. I'm obviously focused on the road, looking for deer, almost hit one at one point. Drumming my fingers to music, smoking, trying to wrap my head around this ridiculous reality. Drop her off and leave right away. My friend and I talk the entire way back about what happened, life, sobriety, religion. It got fucking deep. As we're coming off the highway into town, friend gets a text from Buddy that dad just woke up. I ask him if he wants to lay low at our place for a bit, since he's still tripping. He agrees, we drive to my place. Turns out dad doesn't work today. Friend crashed on the comfortable couch, got some sleep. I just dropped him back off, sobered up, about 2 hours ago. In total, I spent almost exactly 6 hours behind the wheel and was comped gas and emotional labor. It was an experience. Mine's from Bumble, but it's the same basic principle. Frankly, I wish I had made this up, and I guess this is my way of getting it off my chest. I tried out Bumble on the recommendation of a friend of mine who had met his girlfriend of 3-ish years, and counting, on the app. Girls message first, which I appreciated since I'm awful at making moves. I thought to dip my toes in a little bit, try to get a couple conversations going before trying to proceed with anything. So my first match on the app is a girl about 40 miles from me. She leads with hi. I guess brevity is the essence of wit. So, I ask how her day's going, and this is where shit gets whack. I'm gonna kill myself today. Wanna help? Hopefully needless to say, I was spooked. There's some background to be known here. First, I have the social skills of a drunken garden slug. I have a difficult time telling when someone's bullshitting me or pulling the wool over my eyes, especially when the main method of contact is text. Second, I am a deeply empathetic individual, and if someone is in a dark place, it isn't in my nature to just up and leave, even when shit is obviously pretty fucked, even if it's fucked to a degree I can't even begin to help with. I try to give people a second head to bounce things off of, or just listen if that's what they need. And third, I had 3 part-time jobs as well as a 16-credit semester, and had been awake for around 30-some-odd hours at this point. Basically, I wasn't in the most lucid/reasonable state of mind. So I ask her what happened. She asks me to call her, and gives me her number. I'm about to get into class, so I ask if I can call her later that evening. So that evening rolls around, and I give her a call. Long story short, she worked a dead-end job at a retirement home, still lived with her parents, and had no goals, aspirations, or what have you. Her parents largely ignored her, and she struggled with making genuine emotional connections with people. She had a lot of guys use her for sex, with one-night stands and the like being pretty common. I tried to listen more than to talk, since it was pretty clear that this was building up for a long time, and I may very well have been the only one to ask and or listen. We talked for about 45 minutes, with her venting and me just quietly listening. We text on and off for the next couple of days, then she goes quiet for about 6 days. I text her and just ask how she's doing. Who is this? Okay, ow. It's definitely a hard yeet. Sorry, is this? I could have the wrong number. No, this is. I refresh her memory, and she's in a difficult spot. She cut her wrist and arm up so bad she needed stitches. She sent me a photo, and I could tell she knew what she was doing. Down the road, not across the street. I ask that next time she wants to do that to herself, that she please give me a call or text me. She promises to, and I'm feeling good. Maybe I can help out someone in a dark place. But the next day is when it goes so far south that I end up in Antarctica. She had a one-night stand, and she didn't know it was one. She's tired of it all, and is going to end it. Disclaimer, I was coming off another all-nighter, so again, I wasn't in a tremendously lucid state of mind. I beg her not to. Tell her that none of the problems she has in life will be solved if she did. I thought about calling the police, and in retrospect, I absolutely wish I had. Hell, if I had the chance to do it all over again, I would call the police. I ping her a few times to no reply. I ask that if she's still reading my texts, to please call the suicide hotline. I know it sounds stupid and trivial, but there is help out there. Please don't give up. And I'm woken up the following morning at about 4:30 to a manic wall of text insisting that they don't help. I found this a curious assertion, considering that she's probably never called them, and if I had to guess, probably hadn't. Supposedly, she ended up in the emergency room, followed by a psych ward. I kind of furrow my brow at this, since she wouldn't have her phone in a psych ward. She claims to have gone after a couple nurses/orderlies, and that the only good part is that she got hurt worse than they did. But here's the catch. She was bullshitting me. I started to suspect this by the time she revealed it, considering the whole phone in a psych ward shtick. Aside, as someone who's been in a psych ward and genuinely dealt with this kind of shite, it was difficult for me not to go, how fucking dare you. She then launches into a panic attack, if it's even possible to tell such a thing over text. I ask her to try a technique that I had to use with relative frequency to push back or help mitigate a panic attack on the fly, and she calls me retarded. Another aside, it was difficult for me not to just go, alright honey, fuck off. I guess the only reason I kept a level head was that she was already pissed off enough at the world and herself, so another angry voice wouldn't have helped any. However, I go quiet, ultimately deciding that she needs to just cool off for a while. Wrong again. She texts me a bit later, pissed off that I'm not replying. I tell her that I can't say anything to that, and that this isn't something that just goes away if you leave it alone. I tell her she needs help. Whatever. I'm blocking you. Soon as it had sunk in, I sat down at my desk and started going over work and homework. I didn't really come to terms with the whole ordeal until winter break of that semester, since I didn't have a ton of time to think about anything besides classes and work. When I was in high school, I was bad with girls. I don't just mean a stammering mess, I mean full-on gynophobe. It had started getting better once I got to uni, and even better after my shitty vacation at a psych ward. But she dredged it all back up, and I'm only recently starting to pick up the pieces. I've got my own problems to sort out, and this was kind of a harsh lesson, albeit not unjust, that some people are in need of greater help than a verbal punching bag. I guess my biggest regret on the whole ordeal, aside from the fact that it even happened in the first place, was that I didn't call the police. Even if it just made matters worse for her, at least she might have thought twice before threatening to off herself at anyone who gave her the time of day. I'm not even angry or bitter at her, even despite what she said to me. I'm just sad for her sake. I hope she ended up getting the help she needed, and whether or not I was an integral part of that is irrelevant. This turned into a wall, so sorry about that. Thanks for listening. This was before Tinder, dating on Craigslist. Spoke to a girl for a bit. She's into movies and hasn't seen one I have, so the plan is for her to come over to watch. So I drive to get her, and she lives in the worst ghetto I've ever been in. I try to text her that I'm outside, but I get some error message that I can't text a landline. As I'm calling her, some other car on the street in front of me starts honking for his buddy, and takes off right as this girl comes out her front door. The first thing she asks, kinda pissed off, is if I was honking for her. Not a great start, but I convince her it isn't me and GTFO of the ghetto as fast as possible. Driving to my place, we pass a bus stop, and she leans out the window to shout at some people she recognized that she was in a car. We get to my place, and I offer her some ice cream. She insists on boiling water and dunking my spoons in it before she eats from them. Weird, but whatever. We smoke and start the movie. Now my move back then was smooth. My TV was right in front of my queen-sized bed, and the only other place to sit was a single recliner. So we hop in bed, start watching the movie, and a few minutes later I make my move. She's down, so this is a done deal. Except it wasn't. She's on her back and still manages to get her tongue all the way to the back of my throat. I have no idea how she did it. So much tongue. Then she throws her arm up, and I am hit by the most offense BO I've ever smelled. It was like this girl was allergic to showers. Good Lord. And then the trifecta. A mouse is in the center of the room, watching me get tongue strangled by this smelly girl. I'm not a mouse guy, and I want to leave ASAP. All I can think about is all the traps and poison I need to buy, and what is open. I accidentally / on purpose drop a remote near the mouse to scare it away, and track where it runs off to. I back off her, and we finish the movie. The second it's over, I tell her I'll drive her home. She looks bummed, but I need to get out of my mouse palace. She asks if we can smoke again, and I agree just to get this over with. On the drive home, she's telling me how mad her mom is going to be when she comes home this late. She also tells me she's a nympho. I'm still thinking about that mouse, and I'm baked, so the thought of road head doesn't even cross my mind. If I thought her place was in a bad area when I picked her up, the ghetto at night showed me how bad it really is. The second she closed her door, I took off, and I instantly got lost. Not a great time to be high. I pulled up to a gas station to ask for directions. The lights were on, but no one was around, so I got out to go to the front door. Locked. Some car pulls into the lot behind me. So I'm pretty sure I'm about to get robbed and die, but thankfully it's a cab driver. He asks me what I'm doing, and I tell him I'm lost and looking for the highway. He just points. I jump in my car and take off that direction. I'm so happy to be leaving I don't pay good attention and completely bottom out the car going over a curb out of the parking lot. It was loud. Did not sound good. The rest of the story is uneventful. Found the highway, slept at my aunt's, bought traps and poison, never talked to that girl again. The next girl I met online, I married 6 years later. Been together 13 this year. Another story to add. A couple of years ago, I had matched with the classic douche. All about his cars, tattoos, and believed weed was better than taking antidepressants. Well, he was hot, I was desperate for a good make-out session, and he messaged me one day striking a conversation. One thing led to another, and he convinced me to drive an hour and a half to see him. Like I said, I was desperate, and I was just glad I was getting any attention. We met up, he buys us pizza and ice cream, we make out, and then he tells me I can spend the night, which was nice, but I think you know where this is going. Fast forward a month later, and we are talking daily, but only on Snapchat. He seemed to only want to keep the stupid streak, and whenever I asked when we could see each other again, he would make some excuse that he was moving and didn't have time. One time I offered to help pack his things, and his excuse was, "I'll have to ask my landlord." What? I was young and dumb and missed affection, so I blew off every red flag. We finally saw each other once more, and it wasn't anything special. He was hanging with his friend the entire time, and I was bummed I made the trek there and back in the same day. It was a lot of driving for the lack of attention. Fast forward another month, and I completely cut him off. I don't reply to his snap, the streak ends, and we don't speak for a couple of weeks. Then one night my roommates and I drove down to his area to watch a Christmas parade. I had posted a pic with the name of the location as the filter, and lo and behold, he messaged me because he saw I was on his area, and it was all about his convenience for sex. This pissed me off because I knew at this point he was just a douche who needed therapy, and I didn't need that toxic shit in my life. I replied very dryly and confronted him that he doesn't speak to me for weeks and refuses to hang out with me. But when I happen to be in his area, he acts like everything is fine. Well, this set him off, and he said, "LOL, not even gonna argue," and blocked me from everything. Things I didn't even follow him on. Fast forward about a month later, and I was telling my friend about the ordeal, and she decided to stalk him. We find out he has been in a relationship with a girl for months. Like, before he and I even started talking. Like, during the time we hooked up. Like, during the time he messaged me again asking to hang out. If you're wondering, yes. I did message the girl and told her in a nice but stern way about how I had been seeing him. I apologized and had no idea, of course, and she replied with a simple thumbs up. A week later, we saw he was single again. When I look back, there were so many red flags that he was in the relationship. He only messaged me using Snapchat, not text, so it's easy to delete evidence. He had posted a pic of him at the gym one time wearing a weird handkerchief around his neck, but I realize now he was just hiding his hickeys I gave him. And he didn't want to hang out because, of course, he had a girlfriend. So there's the story of my being the other woman because of a Tinder douche. While living in Sydney, Australia, I used Tinder. I went on a date with a Danish girl called Lena. We met in a cool wee bar in the oldest part of Sydney. We had several drinks there, and we were getting on really well. I settled our tab, and we moved into the next bar. We went to a pretty grubby Irish bar. At the bar, she asked me what I would like, and I had a bottle of beer. She ordered herself a double JD and Coke. Face with raised eyebrow when the bill came this round was apparently also on me, which was my first alarm bell. We proceeded to sit in a quiet spot down the back of the bar so that we could chat a bit more when I found myself being kissed. This went on for a while until she asked if we could sit closer to the front of the bar. We sat next to two guys who were popping in and out for a smoke. She then joined them for a smoke and left me looking after the table. A few minutes passed, and they came back and she was sitting opposite me, and we chatted for a bit longer. Until I noticed that her foot was in the crotch of the guy sitting next to me. I gasped, "What are you doing, Lena? We were on a date." She responded she was European and was only being friendly. I quickly replied that I was European too and we're not that friendly. The guy got uncomfortable and went outside. She assured me that she liked me, and there was nothing going on, so the date continued. We chatted a bit more, until she went out for a smoke and then came back. Getting up for a smoke and chatting to other guys continued for a while. I decided to leave. I got up, went to the bathroom, put my jacket and hat on, and was about to leave, but I decided to stay, and I can't explain why. While I was waiting, a group of girls arrived, and I instantly recognized one of them. We had matched on Tinder and chatted for a while, but she ghosted me. When they sat down beside me, they asked for a chair, but I said it was my date's seat. They asked where she was, and I pointed to the Lena chatting to another fella. My Tinder girl came over to me and asked if I recognized her, and I explained I did, and had wondered why she stopped chatting with me. She told me that because I was Irish, she didn't want to get involved in case I was a tourist, which I guess is understandable. Next thing, she jumps onto my knee and starts to kiss me, and suddenly I feel a tap, tap, tap on my shoulder. There is a huge guy looming over me, bearing in mind I'm 6 foot tall and 100 kilograms. "You're supposed to be on a date with this girl," and he points to Delina across the bar, looking very miffed. I responded, "I know that's what I thought too, but I haven't seen her this past hour." He shrugged and left me to it. My new Tinder girl and I swapped numbers, and we dated for a short while, and the funniest part was she was called Lena too. While living in London, I met a girl on Tinder in one of the cool old pubs in central London. We had a fantastic date. It felt like we both really opened up and got to know each other. We had lived similar lives up to that point. The night went on, and we had a bit much to drink. She came back to my flat for a nightcap. I think we maybe opened a bottle of wine or a beer and pretty much went to bed. I think she may have been surprised that I wasn't the kind of guy to sleep with someone on a first date. I woke up in the middle of the night with this person on top me and sleeping with me. I pushed her off and asked what on earth she was thinking. I let her stay the remainder of the night, and the next morning, she claimed to have no memory of the incident. We didn't see each other again after that. I had taken a break from dating for a while living in London, as I'm sure you're aware it becomes a bit much. But I had added and deleted the dating apps over the few months leading up to my deletion. On a Thursday evening I decided to give it a go again. I matched with a girl that I seemed to regularly matched with. It was a bit of joke to her that I kept popping up and then disappearing, and she told me this on the Friday. So after some pestering I agreed to meeting with her, but I regularly cycled to work and explained that as it was impromptu I'd be in my PE kit. We decided to meet a wee pub near my work and close to where she lived. A close friend had been texting me during the day and trying to get me to come out for a drink with her, but I hadn't got back them, which they felt was a bit odd behavior. I had a great night getting to know this girl, and we got on really well. We ended up having a bit much to drink, and I couldn't cycle home, so she let me stay on her sofa. When I checked my phone on the morning, I had countless missed calls from my friend, my sister, and an anonymous number, with multiple text messages asking where I was. I called my friend to let her know I was all right, and she explained that she was with the police, and they were looking for me as I had been reported as a missing person. My friend panicked and contacted my sister to see if she had heard from me. As my sister hadn't, they decided it was for the best to report me as missing in case I'd be knocked down on my bike. So myself and my new friend waited in a local cafe to prove to police I was alive, well, and in fact not missing. So about 5 years ago I got out of a hellish, sex-deprived, at the end, unfaithful relationship where my heart got broken. The second week after kicking her out, I wanted to start meeting girls/women for hookups, so I headed to Tinder. I go on a few dates, but nothing really clicked. At the time I was in very good shape and above average attractive, but I had been out of the game for so long that I was having a hard time closing the deal with the dates. So I decided to amp up my age range from 22 to 32, I was 25, to 22 to 50, just completely hitting the screw it button and saying I'll take what I can take. I was warned this would end badly and didn't listen. So I matched with this 41-year-old, very pretty, incredible body, down-to-earth woman. Right out of the gate she messages me, "I'm getting out of a relationship too. I'm just looking for someone to keep my needs satisfied." My profile explained my situation rather bluntly. So I agree at work, at 1:45 p.m. to go over her house right after work with condoms, lube, weed, and Red Bull per her request. I get there, beautiful 2-bedroom ranch, upscale part of town, BMW in driveway. I call her and she meets me in the garage. As soon as I walk in she says, "Let's get the first time out of the way tonight, then we can chat before we go at it again." We were both off the next day, so the plan was to lock ourselves inside knocking boots for a long time. We end up having our first go at it for over 2 hours where she wasn't into anything freaky, but it was incredible for both of us. It's now 8:30 p.m., worked until 6, and we go to sit down and talk. This lasted about 30 minutes until we started to go at it again for another hour and a half. She asks if she can record us, and I said I wasn't okay with that. She said you hold the camera, and I agreed. She starts amping up her game, some serious porn star stuff. It was great. Everything was going in a great direction, and it was still before midnight. Until I went to the bathroom. I use the restroom and clean up in there for a hot minute, and come out. We get to talking about our previous relationship and how awful they were, and she gets up to go to the bathroom. This is where it gets crazy. Sorry for the rant, I have been holding this in for 5 years, and just saw this and had to jump on it. She comes out of the bathroom worked up and starts screaming, "Where did you put it? What did you do with it?" The bathroom was connected to the living room we were in, so as I walked out of the bathroom, I could see her on the couch. I couldn't have gone anywhere. I ask, whoa, what are you talking about? She screams, "My plant, my big plant. What did you do with it?" Confused, I looked back at her and said, "What? What happened to it? Is it broken or something?" She screams, "It's gone. Where did you put it?" I have no idea what she was on about. I try to act calm and say, "I didn't take it or even touch it. I couldn't even describe it if I tried. How could I take it if I come directly out of the bathroom into this room?" She starts throwing candles, vases, remotes, anything she can find at me as hard as she could while screaming like a lunatic. Nothing I could even understand. So I say, "Yeah, I'm gonna go. I am not sure what is going on, but I need to leave," and proceed to walk out. She follows me outside screaming bloody murder. "You come over here and F me on camera, and you try to steal from me." Again, that was her idea. I didn't want to do that. It's midnight, so her screams are echoing, and she was so loud. I try to get in my car, and she won't let me. She gets in front of my door and starts swinging at me to make me step back. She's screaming, Don't you fing dare try to leave you violate me my home, and disrespect me and think you can leave. You're not going anywhere until I get my plant back, again screaming at the top of her lungs. I'm trying to calm her down and get her to have the conversation inside with the hopes of running to my car and getting out of there. She just keeps screaming and screaming. It's about 20 minutes later and a cop car pulls up. 2 officers approach us, asking what the problem was, saying that they had received a lot of calls about what was going on. She looks at one of the officers and goes at hug him saying, "Danny, he stole Mom's plant and won't give it back." It's her brother. So now I am totally freaking out that I am going to get screwed by this woman's relationship with the cop. Danny and the other officer calm her down and pull me aside. Danny looks at me and says, "So what's your side of the story?" I said, "Listen, officer, I am going to be completely honest here. I met her on Tinder earlier today, and she told me to come over tonight. I have all of the messages that show it was her idea. I don't know if I should go into detail because that's your sister, and I don't want to disrespect you in any way." He says it's fine, just explain, so I do, in full detail including the video and everything. He sighs and says, "Hold on." He goes to talk to his sister, she's bawling by the way, and before he takes her inside he asks me, "Do you have any belongings in the house?" I say no, and he takes her inside. As soon as he comes out she follows slowly behind watching what happens. At this point, there are about 30 people crowding the surrounding driveway, watching everything unfold. Danny walks up to me and says, "Listen, my sister has gone through a lot since her divorce. Nothing on you, but she's on tough times. Do you want to press charges?" I say no, I want to go home. He turns over his shoulder and says, "To make this as simple and painless as possible with her, can I pretend to cuff you, put you in the back of my car, and have my partner follow us out in your car?" Astounded, I stood there and said, "Excuse me?" He re-explains and says for her to not make another scene where she could potentially damage my car, this would be easiest. I say fine, and do it. He pretends to put cuffs on me and walks me to the back of his car. His partner takes my keys and gets in my car. We drive for about 10 minutes as Danny explains and apologizes for what happened. We get to a Taco Bell and he pulls in. He lets me out of the car and asks if I wanted anything. I decline and wait for my car. As we're waiting, I ask him, "Is what we just did legal?" He looks at me and says, "It's helpful, here's my card. If you ever need anything within reason, please let me know." And he saves my name and number in his phone. I leave and go home. I never got to contact him, which I guess is a good thing. The worst part about all of this is about 2 months later I meet another girl, my age, and we start to seriously date. She tells me she wants me to meet her parents, so I agree. We leave her apartment in her car to drive out to her parents. I get this odd feeling that something is familiar. We pull into the driveway and go inside. Her parents are nice, sweet, and kind. We start to have dinner and there's a knock on the door. Her father says, "Our next door neighbor wants to meet you. She practically helped raise Lori, my GF." A chill goes down my spine as the plant lady walks in. I have no words, frozen in fear and disbelief. I must have been pale because Lori asked me, "Are you okay?" Before I can answer, the plant lady says, "Oh, I'm sure he's scared shitless right now. I can't believe you have the balls to be here." Silence. Fear. Sweat. All at once, still cannot find words. Her mother asks, "Do you two know each other?" The plant lady says, "Oh, he's the one you called the police on, the guy who raped me, stole from me, and got arrested. Are you out on bail?" "I don't want you with my Lori. You probably defiled her as well." Turning to Lori, she says, "You need to get tested because he gave me something." I am contemplating suicide by butter knife. I still can't find words. Her mother says, "Get the F*** out of my house. Remember, I didn't drive." Lori says she'll take me home and her father says, "No, I will take him back. You are not to see this criminal ever again." I stand up and finally say, "That simply isn't true, but I am not here to argue or cause a scene. You're hearing one side to a story that Lori knows." I turn to Lori and say, "This is the date I was talking about, the one with the plant." Lori just puts her head down and says, "You should go." I say, "I'll walk to the end of the development and order an Uber." Her father says, "No, I will take you home." We get in the car, petrified, and start to drive to Lori's apartment in silence. As we get to her apartment, he says, "If I ever hear your name or see as much as a like on Lori's Facebook, I will come after you. She is my only child, and she is an innocent girl. I don't want her to be with a criminal rapist." I tell him that it is not true, and that his neighbor needs serious mental health. He goes, Yeah, which is why you left in the back of a cop car. You're not going to fool me. Don't make me repeat myself." I get out of the car and get in mind to go home. I call my friends to tell them what happened, and Lori calls me. I tell my buddy to go on mute, and I add her into the call. She tells me that she thought that she could really love me, and that I could have been someone she could have shared the rest of her life with. How could I be such a two-faced person? I try to explain myself, but it doesn't work, and the call ends with a complete and total break in communication. It was heartbreaking because she was an absolute incredible human being, and I could have married her. She was my one who got away. I swore off dating sites, and eventually met my current GF that I have been with for 3.5 years, who I plan on marrying when the time comes. It was single-handedly the worst experience of my entire life, and I have had 4 close family members die within a 2-week period. The legend of the plant lady still lives on, and has been told to all of my friends and current GF. I should have listened when my one buddy warned me that women over 40 with men under 30 is a bad idea. They're sex-craved lunatics if you meet them online. I never wanted to test the rule by having another encounter like that, so never again, never again. Thanks for taking the time to ready this short story. It was devastating, so I had a lot to get out. To sum up, male, 25, hooks up with female, 41, with passionate crazy sex. After multiple sessions and a bathroom break, she accuses me of stealing a plant, which leads to the cops getting called in the middle of the night. One of the cops being her brother, being fake handcuffed and departing in the back of a cop car to help the cop who was the brother out. 2 months pass, dating a girl, met her parents. Plant lady lives next door, helped raise GF at the time, got accused of rape and theft. Driven to my car and threatened by the father. Talked to the GF, she broke it off completely. Could have been the one. Never Tinder hookup with older women if you are under 30. It's scary. I met up with a Tinder match in a foreign country, and probably would have been kidnapped if my friends hadn't traveled with me. This ended up being a long one, sorry in advance. I was about a week into a study abroad program in Korea, and I figured I'd see what the Tinder pool was like there. I matched with this guy, and he seemed nice. It turned out that he was hanging out in Hongdae, which was close to where I was staying, so we made plans to meet up and hang out face to face. I want it to be known that Hongdae is a very public place that's always teeming with college students and street performers, especially at night. Despite that, I still asked 2 of my friends to accompany me there and follow at a distance to keep an eye on things. I was a little worried about what could go wrong if I went alone, and I am so glad that my friends came with me. My friends and I took the train to Hongdae, and we split ways when we arrived at the platform. When we met up, the first few minutes of face-to-face conversation were fine, and he still seemed pretty nice, so we decided to walk around and see what was going on in the district. This is about when things started to make me uncomfortable. Now, I'm not generally opposed to physical contact, but this dude would not let go of me. The moment we walked away from the train station, he either kept his arm around my shoulder or a grip on my arm. At first I thought, hey, it's a busy area, maybe he doesn't want us getting separated. But every time I wanted to walk in a direction that he didn't want to walk in, or I turned to look at something, he would immediately tighten his grip and force me where he wanted to go. After a while, I noticed that although we were stopping in stores and at street stalls to see what the district had to offer, he was leading me further and further away from the main streets. An important thing to note is that if you don't have a Korean SIM card, your phone will not work in the country unless you're on Wi-Fi. The problem with that is, even though almost every single store and restaurant has Wi-Fi, you couldn't connect to any of the networks unless you were a paying customer and got the Wi-Fi password as a result. At this point in the night, I couldn't see my friends anywhere nearby, and I started panicking. I didn't have a SIM card, so I was desperately hoping that my phone would connect to a network that I had previously connected to the last time I had been in Hongdae. It was by some miracle that my phone connected to a Wi-Fi network, and a message from one of my friends came. It was unfortunate that it said my friends had lost sight of me. We made a stop in another store, and my phone was still connected to the Wi-Fi. Another message came in, this time from the study abroad group chat. One of the other people on the program wanted to get a group together to go karaoke. Someone had thrown me a line, and by God was I going to bite. Now, it was possible that I was overreacting. I was meeting up with a guy from Tinder, and I was in a foreign country. Of course I was tense, and I was probably being dramatic. Nope. I told the guy about how I needed to get back because a group of people wanted to get together to hang out, and he got weird. Well, I guess he got weirder. He started accusing me of not having a good time, and saying that I only wanted to go back because there were probably more attractive guys in the group that wanted to hang out. He kept asking me if I thought he was ugly, and if I wished I hadn't met with him. He started to accuse me of lying about the group of people wanting to hang out and demanded to see the message. I pulled up the group chat to show him the message, and he grabbed my phone from me and started tapping on the pictures of the guys in the group chat. He kept saying things like, "Oh, this guy is attractive. Is he the one you want to hang out with?" And, "Do you think this guy is better looking than me?" I didn't want to aggravate him, so I kept telling him that no, I didn't think the other guys were more attractive, and that I really just wanted to hang out with the group and get to know them all better. Thankfully, he gave me my phone back, but he grabbed my arm and started walking us in a random direction again. At this point, I figured that I might as well tell him about my friends that had accompanied me to Hongdae. I saw it as a sort of last-ditch effort to get him to let me leave. He started drilling me with questions again, this time asking me if they had been following us around, if they had seen his face, and if they were guys. I told him that my friends and I had split up as soon as we arrived at the train station, and that I didn't know where they were, but they knew I was there and with him. He didn't say anything else and kept walking us around, and I pretty much resigned myself to whatever would happen. I know that's stupid, but I have zero fighting instinct. Next thing I knew, we were at the train station I had met him at, and he let go of me and ran. He didn't say goodbye or anything. He literally let go of my arm and sprinted away. My friends and I immediately left to go back to where we were staying once we were able to find each other. I'm absolutely convinced that something bad would have happened to me if I hadn't mentioned that I was accompanied to Hongdae. So yeah, it's always a good idea to let people know where you're going when you're meeting up with someone from Tinder. It's even better when those people go with you. There's safety in numbers. Not me, but one of my buddies met this girl on Tinder, and they ended up hitting it off. I was wary though because she was like 5 years older than him. He was I think 17 at the time. He kept telling me how much he liked her, and that she was really attractive and all that stuff. He ended up going out on a date with her, and they went to the movies. Me and the girl and another of my friends met up to get food before going to a movie. I kind of asked him how he was feeling about it, and he said something to the effect of, "I'm good bro, I got a piece on me right now." I assumed he meant he just had his pocket knife in case shit got wacky. Me and the other friend were going to go with him, but it was snowing, and the movie theater they were going to was a good distance away, so my dad didn't want me driving out there. Anyway, they go on the date, and my friend texts me that something is wrong. The girl ends up being disabled and has to use crutches to walk, and the crutches are the ones that go on your arms for when your legs are pretty fucked up. Now, I don't think my friend had any issue with disabled people, it was more the fact that she hid it from him. It was also a sort of catfish situation, because once my friend actually saw her in the light, she was not as attractive as she made it seem when he was FaceTiming her or whatever. Once they're in the theater, the girl keeps trying to get in my buddy's pants, but he's not into it because she isn't cute and she's disabled, and it almost felt wrong. When they get back to the car, she tells him that she has to just go pick up a friend real quick, and then she can take him home. He doesn't really want to, but she made it seem like it was close, so he agreed. At this point, he's texting me and the other friend that the date did not go well, and that they're now going to pick up a friend. Me and the friend were now getting real worried because we thought the girl was already shady and something just wasn't right. Come to find out, the friend that the girl had to pick up lived like 50 minutes away from where my buddy did. Plus, when the friend, who was a guy probably mid-20s and tall, got into the car, he sat directly behind my friend. Which is normal, I guess, but the guy leaned up real close behind my friend, so it was really sus. And now my friend is texting me like, "Dude, I don't know where they're taking me because they aren't dropping me back off." He said he was scared and that he had his gun still. Now, I didn't even realize that when he said peace, he meant that he was carrying a handgun illegally. Now, me and my friend are calling 911 saying that our friend was in the process of getting kidnapped. The only issue is that no one we knew had his phone number, so the cops couldn't figure out where he was. And his snap maps was off because the guy behind him had told him to put his fucking phone away. While I'm trying to call the cops, my buddy is wondering if he should pull the gun on them because it was obvious that they were not taking him home. And my buddy was in the army, so he knew how to use it. And the girl is driving crazy as hell, running reds, going 20 over the speed limit. And then the guy behind my friend says, "Quit driving crazy, I don't want to get caught for this shit." And now my friend is like, "Oh fuck, I'm actually getting kidnapped right now." Then he's at a stoplight right before the highway, and he's gone forever. My buddy fucking bolts from the car because it was one of those cars that the door auto opens from inside, even if it's locked. He literally sprinted for at least 2 miles to get to a gas station that's like 10 minutes from his house. He cut across streets, so it would be really hard for the people to follow him as well. He calls his brother, who has a couple felonies, and says, "Dude, you gotta come fucking pick me up, this bitch was crazy. And I got a piece on me right now, you gotta come get me now." His brother is there in like 3 minutes and picks my friend up, and he goes home never to hear or see from the girl again. It was so fucking crazy because where I live, sex trafficking and drugs are big, and kidnapping stories aren't that deep until it's super real, as in your friend is literally being taken and you can't do anything. Not me directly, but a flatmate I used to live with. Let's call her Abby. This is kind of 2 stories in one, so stay with me. Sitting comfortable? Then I shall begin. Abby, who since I had shared a flat with had not had much luck in the love department. Some her own fault, some not. However, she was a lovely girl and a great sense of humor and sweet as anything. She was single, as was I, and we decided one night to go to a speed date event where she ended up matching with this guy. Let's call Steve. Steve was actually really nice, and he used to come over for dinner, play Xbox, and him and Abby seemed pretty good together. He worked as a sales rep, and his work decided they needed to send him abroad. This was for 2 weeks, and at which time it was Abby's birthday party. They had been seeing each other for about 2 months at this point. Steve was gutted he would miss it, but said he would ring, etc., and that morning he did, and all was good. Abby had a gathering at our local pub/club, which was great. Loads of her friends turned up, and strangely one of her ex-boyfriends was working behind the bar. I knew him from before I moved in with her, and he was one of those cool sly cats that would, and could talk his way in and out of any situation. Several hours go by and Abby has had a great time, clearly very merry, and I too am feeling the drink by this time, so I head home with Abby, which is only a few minutes walk. We get in and say night and wish her a happy birthday, and up I go to bed. Next day I come downstairs and start making coffee, and I hear the front door open and shut. I go out to look and I don't see anyone there. Abby appears in the lounge, and I assume she went out the front for some reason, and go to roll a cigarette and go outside myself. I think nothing of it, and the rest of the 2 weeks go by, and during this Abby is clearly missing Steve. Cut to Saturday, Steve is back and they go out to dinner. He has bought her roses for her birthday, yada yada yada, and clearly he has missed her a lot. I hear them come home after dinner and disappear off to her room. I venture off to my own room and start watching a movie and on the PC. About half an hour passes, and suddenly I hear shouting downstairs. I go out and they are arguing. He's saying he is so upset with her and that he cannot believe she would do this to him. He leaves and she's on the stairs crying. I go down and ask her what's wrong and what's happened. Turns out they had come home and gone to bed, and while Steve was fingering her he felt something and pulled out a used condom, which had been inside her for 11 days. Let that sink in for a few seconds. 11 days. No surprises who the owner was either, the ex from her birthday party. Smooth Sly Jeff and his sly shaft. She admitted she remembers him turning up at the door. She hadn't gone straight to bed, so she was still up, and she let him in as he had brought drinks with him. They stayed up chatting, and he had given her a present. She does remember saying he can stay over on the couch as it was late, but somehow they ended upstairs. Then she remembers him kissing her, which led them to having sex, consensual. She felt terrible, but as it was a big mistake and she thought she could hide it. Clearly not. We never saw Steve again, sadly. Nice guy, and Abby regrets it completely. Only human, I guess. Now the second part is a few months later. She decided Match.com would be her ticket to a new man. She was soon flooded with matches and decided to go on a date with this guy who we will call Romeo. Before she went I was giving her advice, the usual be yourself stuff, and she went and had a great time by all accounts of the loud sex that was happening in the house later that night. The next morning she came down to the kitchen and I asked if all was good, and she said she was happy and she had found the one. I felt she was a little off for thinking this, first date, but she had had the bad breakup before this, so I thought she was just catching feelings early and getting caught up in the moment. She goes off for a shower and I'm still making breakfast. Cue Romeo walking in, and without missing a beat, he says he's leaving now, and to tell her it was fun. I asked why he was going now, and that Abby would only be a few minutes. His reply was, "My wife will be home shortly. Need to get home before she does." At this point I bit my tongue and he left. Abby came down after getting dressed and asked where Romeo was. I questioned her about him and what had happened. He never told her he was married, and to top it off they hadn't used protection. Didn't even get his mobile number either, which made tracking him down impossible when she found out she had contracted a nasty STD and was pregnant. His profile disappeared from Match.com the day after he walked out. She did send a message to them, but heard nothing back. Sadly, she didn't make it to full term, I moved out about 2 years after, at which point she was happily with a new guy.